Every man has a breaking point. The moment he finally decides that peace is worth more than proximity. That love without respect isn't love, it's debt. You don't have to keep proving your worth to someone who keeps testing it. And you don't have to forgive what destroys you just to feel loved, because real strength isn't endurance, it's boundaries. In this video, we're going to expose the 10 things you should never forgive a woman for in a relationship. And more importantly, how walking away from them might be the first time you ever chose yourself. There's a hidden rule no one tells you about relationships. The one who fears loss the most always has the least power. That's why manipulators thrive on your forgiveness. It gives them proof that you won't leave. But here's the twist. The real leverage isn't in love, it's in boundaries. Once you understand that, everything changes. If you've ever wanted to understand how emotional power really works, like this video and subscribe now. Comment yes if you've ever stayed silent just to keep the peace, or no if you've already learned to walk away. Because the first thing I'm about to uncover isn't about her lies, it's about how easily men let them slide. Number 1, chronic lies and alternate realities. It never starts with a big lie. It begins with something small, tiny enough that you brush it off. She says she was home when she wasn't. Says a message was from a friend when it wasn't. The price of the dress, the story about where she went. Details so minor you'd feel ridiculous calling them out. That's exactly the point. The first lie is a test. Not of your intelligence, but of your boundaries. A woman who lies habitually isn't trying to hide mistakes. She's crafting a world where she decides what's real. Every deception that goes unchecked becomes proof that you'll choose peace over truth. And once she learns that lesson, the lies evolve. They move from white lies to full-blown fabrications, secret accounts, double lives, rewritten timelines that make you question your memory. You stop confronting her because it's easier to doubt yourself than to accept what she's done. That's how manipulation begins, by exhausting your sense of reality until you surrender it entirely. The goal isn't simply to deceive you, it's to make you depend on her version of events. You'll start defending her lies to other people. You'll start lying to yourself, telling yourself she means well. That's how she wins. Because once she decides that lying to you is acceptable, she's decided that your truth doesn't matter. And when your truth no longer matters, you're not in a relationship. You're in her illusion. Number 2, public humiliation disguised as humor. It sounds harmless at first, a story told at dinner, a teasing remark in front of friends, a little laugh at your expense. She says, "Relax, it's just a joke." Everyone laughs, except you. You smile to keep the peace, but deep down, something twists. Because you know what really happened. She wasn't trying to be funny. She was trying to remind everyone who's in control. When a woman repeatedly mocks you in public, your habits, your mistakes, your ambitions, she's not building connection. She's broadcasting hierarchy. Each laugh she earns from others is another brick in the wall of dominance she's constructing over you. And when you confront her about it, she flips the script, "You're too sensitive," or "You can't take a joke." Now you're not only the punchline, you're the problem. Psychologically, this is contempt disguised as intimacy. Contempt doesn't scream. It smirks. It kills slowly, stripping your dignity one funny story at a time. Once she learns she can mock you without consequence, respect begins to die. And when respect dies, love follows. A woman who loves you protects your image in public. She guards your reputation because she values what you represent together. A woman who ridicules you seeks power, not partnership. So the next time she turns you into the joke to make herself look superior, don't laugh with her. Understand what's really happening. She's not sharing humor, she's sharing contempt. And once a woman laughs at you in public, the relationship is already dying in private. Number 3, emotional manipulation and guilt traps. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't threaten. She simply makes you feel like a bad man for having boundaries. If you really loved me, you don't care about me anymore. I guess I'm just not enough for you. Every word is designed to twist your compassion into compliance. You're not arguing with logic. You're negotiating with guilt. Emotional manipulation is one of the most sophisticated forms of control because it hides behind the illusion of love. She studies your triggers, your fears, your need to protect. She knows exactly which button to press to make you fold. The tears, the trembling voice, the silence that punishes, it's all part of the performance. And because you're kind, because you want peace, you surrender. You stop saying no. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. What she's really doing is teaching you that her emotions are your responsibility, that your worth is measured by how well you can fix her mood. And once she conditions you to accept that burden, you lose the right to your own feelings. You exist to regulate hers. That isn't love. That's emotional servitude. A woman who truly loves you won't weaponize your empathy. She won't use her pain to control your behavior. She'll communicate, not manipulate. So remember this. Love that demands guilt isn't love. It's leverage. And the moment you start feeling guilty for protecting your peace, you're no longer in a relationship. You're in captivity. Love doesn't require submission. If her love needs you to feel guilty, it isn't love. Number 4. Boundary violation disguised as intimacy. She says it's because she loves you. That's why she checks your phone, your messages, your location. That's why she asks where you've been, who you've talked to, why you didn't answer fast enough. She'll call it transparency. She'll call it closeness. But what it really is, control dressed as affection. A woman who violates your privacy isn't looking for connection. She's looking for confirmation that she owns you. Every time she crosses a boundary and you let it slide, she learns that your autonomy is negotiable. What begins as curiosity turns into interrogation. What starts as, I just worry about you, becomes, I don't trust you. And soon, you'll find yourself explaining every move, every call, every minute, as if you're the one on trial. In healthy relationships, intimacy and individuality coexist. You can be deeply connected and still have private thoughts, personal space, and independence. But when someone equates love with constant access, that isn't intimacy. It's surveillance. You stop being a partner and start being property. This kind of behavior corrodes your sense of self. You begin to shrink, editing your actions to avoid accusations. You stop sharing the truth because honesty will only be used against you. And eventually, you lose the quiet confidence of being your own man. Love never demands surrender of identity. Love respects the walls that protect your peace. So remember, a woman who doesn't respect your boundaries doesn't love you. She wants to own you. And once ownership replaces respect, love doesn't live there anymore. Number 5. Physical or property aggression. It starts with something you can excuse. A slammed door, a broken glass, a shove during an argument. She cries afterward, says she just got overwhelmed, that it will never happen again. You want to believe her, because the alternative means admitting you're no longer safe. But make no mistake, aggression is not an accident. It's a message. It says, I will use fear to control you. Violence in any form, against you, your belongings, or your space, is the purest expression of dominance. It isn't passion. It isn't frustration. It's a power play. People don't lose control randomly. They choose when, where, and with whom to explode. She doesn't throw things at her boss. She doesn't shove her friends. She only does it to you because she knows you'll stay. And that's how it escalates. The first push becomes a grab. The grab becomes a slap, then a punch through the wall near your head. Every time you forgive, she learns the same lesson. Fear works. It keeps you quiet. It keeps you compliant. Until one day, it's not a wall. It's you. When love turns physical, it stops being love. There is no justification, no emotional context that redeems it. Real love protects. It never threatens. So if she's breaking things to make a point, understand what she's really saying. She's willing to destroy what's yours to remind you who has control. If she can break objects today, she'll break you tomorrow. Walk away before she does. Number 6, financial control and exploitation. Love doesn't justify imbalance, but in toxic relationships, money becomes the silent leash. It starts subtly. She forgets her wallet, borrows and never pays back, says you're better with money anyway. Then the narrative changes. Suddenly your income is our money, but hers is her freedom. She'll call it sharing. She'll call it teamwork. But it's not partnership if one person is carrying all the weight. Financial control isn't about bills or budgets. It's about power. The moment you become the only provider, or worse, the one being drained, the balance shifts. Every purchase turns into a test of loyalty. Every disagreement becomes a guilt trip about how ungrateful you are. After everything I do for you, you start second-guessing your own spending while she feels entitled to yours. That's not love. That's control disguised as dependence. And when she sabotages your career, discourages your ambition, or subtly mocks your goals, understand the strategy. The less you have, the less you can leave. Financial dependence keeps people trapped longer than fear ever could. Because when she holds the wallet, she holds your options, your ability to walk away, your independence, your dignity. Money isn't about greed. It's about freedom. It represents your time, your effort, your choices. Everything that makes you an individual. A woman who truly loves you won't want to own your freedom. She'll want to build alongside it. So don't mistake financial exploitation for intimacy. It's not romance, it's leverage. And when she controls it, she controls you. Number 7, isolation from friends and family. It never happens overnight. It begins with little comments. Your friends don't really get us. Your family doesn't like me. You're different when you're around them. At first, it sounds like insecurity. You reassure her, promise balance. But soon, every outing becomes a negotiation. Every visit feels like betrayal. Until one day, you realize you haven't seen your friends in months, and she's the only voice in your life that's left. Isolation is the most effective control tactic because it's invisible. No one can warn you when no one is allowed near you. She'll say she just wants more time together. She'll claim others are jealous, negative, or toxic. But what she's really doing is cutting you off from your reality check, the people who'd notice the manipulation before you do. Once you lose your outside connections, you lose perspective. You stop hearing the truth because the only feedback you get is hers. And when her voice becomes your entire world, her version of reality becomes law. That's how emotional captivity works, not with chains, but with silence. Healthy love connects you deeper to the world, not further from it. The right woman will want to meet your friends, know your family, and stand beside you in your community, not replace it with herself. When you find yourself explaining why you don't see anyone anymore, that's not love protecting you. That's control isolating you. And when she becomes your only world, you stop existing in your own. Number 8, infidelity and betrayal. Cheating isn't an accident. It's not something that just happened. It's a chain of deliberate decisions to cross a boundary, to deceive, to risk everything sacred between you for something temporary. It begins long before the act itself. With a text not deleted, a look held too long, a conversation that drifts where it shouldn't. And every step she knows what she's doing. She just believes she won't get caught. Or worse, that you'll forgive her if she is. Infidelity is not about passion. It's about entitlement. It's the belief that her desires matter more than your trust, that her impulses are worth the pain they cause. And when caught, the script is always the same. We were going through a rough patch. You weren't giving me what I needed. It didn't mean anything. But every excuse only reinforces the truth. She chose selfishness over respect. Forgiveness won't restore what was broken, because infidelity doesn't just destroy trust. It rewrites it. Once she's crossed that line, you'll never again believe her words the same way. Every text will carry suspicion. Every silence will echo. You'll live in a state of quiet vigilance, guarding yourself from someone who should have been guarding you. A woman who betrays you has already told you who she is. Someone willing to risk your dignity for her convenience. And the hardest part isn't losing her. It's realizing she was never who you thought she was. Cheating isn't a mistake. It's a message. Believe it. Number 9. Weaponizing your vulnerabilities. It always starts in moments of closeness. You open up because you trust her. You tell her about the things you've survived, the fears you hide, the insecurities you never share. You believe you're building intimacy. What you don't realize is that she's quietly taking notes. Then one day, in the heat of an argument, she fires the first shot. The very pain you confessed in confidence becomes her weapon. Your childhood trauma, your failures, the mistakes you told her because you thought love meant safety. Now they're ammunition, fired back at you with surgical precision to win an argument, to make you feel small, to break your defenses. This isn't passion. This isn't loss of control. This is strategy. It's psychological warfare disguised as vulnerability. Once she learns that exposing your wounds gets results, she'll do it again. Because nothing gives a manipulator more power than the ability to make you bleed with your own truth. The cost of this betrayal is deeper than anger. It's silence. You stop sharing. You stop trusting. You start guarding every thought, every emotion. The relationship may look alive, but it's emotionally dead, because intimacy cannot exist where safety has been violated. A woman who uses your pain against you doesn't understand it. She exploits it. Real love shelters your wounds. It never weaponizes them. So the next time someone turns your confessions into knives, don't make excuses for her cruelty. Once she uses your pain against you, she's no longer your partner. She's your enemy. Number 10. The abuse apology love bombing cycle. This one is the most dangerous because it feels like love. She hurts you with words, with contempt, with control, then rushes in to fix it. Tears, apologies, promises to change. Suddenly she's affectionate again, cooking your favorite meal, whispering how much she needs you. For a moment it feels like peace. You tell yourself it's over. You want to believe it's different this time. But it's not. It's just the calm between storms. This is how trauma bonding works. The human brain confuses relief with love. After pain, kindness feels euphoric. You start craving her affection not because it's good, but because it temporarily stops the bad. You become addicted to the highs she controls, and she knows it. That's why the cycle always restarts. The next outburst, the next insult, the next apology. Each round, shorter, sharper, crueler, until you can't tell where love ends and damage begins. This isn't love evolving. It's control tightening. She's not trying to heal the wound. She's keeping it open, just clean enough for you to stay. Because as long as you're waiting for the good version of her to return, you'll never leave. Healthy relationships don't require recovery periods. They don't need grand gestures to erase harm. They don't destroy you one day and adore you the next. So don't mistake the apology for transformation. Don't mistake affection for safety. She's not changing. She's resetting the trap. Forgiving the unforgivable doesn't make you noble. It makes you disappear. Every time you excuse a lie, a humiliation, a manipulation, a betrayal, you chip away at the man you used to be. You tell yourself it's compassion, understanding, maturity. But what it really is surrender, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to defend. The truth is, you can't love a woman into respecting you. You can't fix someone who finds power in your pain. You can't negotiate with someone who thrives on your forgiveness. Real love doesn't demand endless tolerance. It doesn't test how much you can endure before you break. Real love values your peace, not your suffering. If you stay with someone who crosses these lines, you don't just lose trust, you lose yourself. You become a shadow of the man you were, always apologizing, always explaining, always waiting for the next apology that will never mean anything. Your silence becomes complicity. Your endurance becomes permission. And eventually, she won't even need to ask for forgiveness because you'll already be giving it. But leaving? That's different. Leaving isn't failure. It's recognition. It's choosing yourself over chaos, self-respect over illusion. It's reclaiming the time and energy you've been giving to someone who never deserved it. And once you walk away, something powerful happens. You remember who you were before you started shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. So, if this message woke something up in you, don't stay silent. Comment below and tell your story, not to shame anyone, but to help another man recognize himself before it's too late. Share this with someone who's forgetting his worth, and subscribe, because this space isn't about hate or bitterness. It's where men remember who they are. You don't need to forgive the unforgivable. You need to free yourself from it. You've probably met her, the woman who made you feel like you were finally enough, until every moment with her became a test you couldn't pass. You started doubting yourself, losing sleep, losing focus, losing control. And you still can't explain how she did it. The truth is, there are 8 types of women built to make men chase, overgive, and eventually break. They don't ruin you overnight. They do it slowly, softly, until you forget who you were before them. In this video, I'll walk you through every one of them, what they look like, how they think, and how to recognize the danger before it begins. There's something no one tells men about relationships. Manipulation rarely looks like manipulation. It looks like affection, like vulnerability, like someone who just needs a little help. That's how you get hooked. Not through deceit, but through empathy. And the more you care, the deeper she goes. This video isn't about women versus men. It's about seeing the invisible patterns that keep men stuck in emotional quicksand. Because once you understand what's really happening, you can't be played again. If you're ready to see what most men never notice, hit like and subscribe. You're about to gain clarity that changes everything. Tell me in the comments. Do you believe manipulation always starts with intention, or can it be unconscious? Keep watching. Because the first kind of woman we'll uncover hides her control behind something every man misunderstands as love. Number 1. The spendthrift. She doesn't love you. She loves the feeling of spending your money. You'll meet her when you're doing well enough to stand on your own feet, but still trying to build something solid. She'll appear fascinated by your drive, your plans, your ambition. But soon, you'll notice something subtle. Her affection grows only when you're spending. A dinner, a trip, a little surprise that always turns into a statement piece. Every moment of connection comes with a price tag. Spendthrift women speak the language of money as a tool of validation. In their minds, love is not a bond, it's a transaction that must constantly prove itself through gifts, indulgence, and upgrades. They don't say, I care for you. They say, if you cared, you would. And each time you comply, you unknowingly step deeper into her design, a cycle of guilt and reward that makes you equate generosity with worth. At first, you tell yourself it's normal. After all, you want to give to make her happy. But giving becomes expectation. Expectation becomes pressure. And pressure becomes resentment. She will not stop. Because it's never about the object, it's about control. The spendthrift tests your limits to measure your devotion. Every time you say yes, you teach her how far she can push. You'll start to feel it. That silent dread when your phone buzzes with her message, knowing it means another little thing she really needs. Your love becomes a financial treadmill. You run, you pay, but you never move forward. Here's the truth most men learn too late. A woman who only knows how to receive will never know how to value. She doesn't want a partner, she wants an ATM with emotions. And when the account runs dry, financially or emotionally, she'll simply move on to the next source of love. When a woman's affection depends on what you give, not who you are, you're not in love. You're being drained. Slowly, quietly, completely. And number 2, the liar. Every lie, no matter how small, leaves a scar. And the worst kind of liar isn't the one who invents stories. It's the one who bends reality just enough to make you question your own. At first, she seems honest. She shares little confessions to appear transparent. Stories about her past, her crazy ex, the struggles she's finally over. But you'll start to notice details that don't align. Timelines shift, stories change. You'll catch her contradicting herself, and when you point it out, she'll laugh, accuse you of overthinking, or worse, make you feel guilty for noticing. That's how the trust assassin operates. She kills your confidence one doubt at a time. You start wondering if you're too sensitive, too paranoid, too demanding. Meanwhile, she hides behind charm and emotional appeal, mastering the art of the half-truth. She'll tell you enough to sound sincere, but never the full picture, because full honesty removes her control. A relationship built on half-truths becomes a battlefield of confusion. You'll start checking her words against her actions, her phone against her promises, and each time you confront her, she'll shift the spotlight. Suddenly, it's your fault for not trusting her. You'll apologize, not because you're wrong, but because you're tired. That's how lies work. They don't explode, they erode. And when you realize you can't tell what's real anymore, it's already too late. You've been emotionally disarmed. The liar thrives in your uncertainty. She knows that as long as you're busy doubting yourself, you won't question her. She doesn't crave love. She craves control over your perception. If you ever find yourself rewriting your memories to make her story make sense, stop. Truth doesn't need your defense. A woman who values honesty won't make you feel insane for asking for it. If you start doubting your memory more than her story, walk away. Because when trust dies, love doesn't die with it. It turns into fear. And living in fear of the person you love isn't romance. It's slow emotional suicide. Number 3, the chronic flirt. She walks into a room, and instantly it tilts toward her. The laughter gets louder, the eyes follow, and she glows brighter in the spotlight. You think it's charm, at first, but soon you realize she's not connecting with people, she's collecting reactions. A woman addicted to attention isn't flirting with others because she wants them. She's flirting because she needs to feel wanted. Every smile she gets is a drop of dopamine, a hit of reassurance that she's still desirable. And when you're the man in her life, you're not her partner. You're her anchor of supply, the one expected to keep feeding that need. She'll call it harmless. She'll tell you, I'm just friendly. But deep down, she knows the power it gives her. The glances, the compliments, the lingering messages, they keep her ego inflated. It's not about betrayal in the physical sense, it's emotional gambling. She bets your peace of mind against her momentary high. You'll feel it. That tension in your chest when she laughs too long at another man's joke. The way you start questioning whether you're being jealous or just observant. But that's the trap. You begin to police your own discomfort, convincing yourself you're overreacting. Meanwhile, she keeps feeding on the validation around her, acting shocked when you finally confront her. The chronic flirt doesn't cheat because she's tempted. She cheats because she's empty. She needs admiration to fill the silence of her own insecurity. And when she stops getting it from you, she'll look elsewhere, not out of malice, but out of habit. You can't love someone who uses attention as oxygen. You'll never give enough because she doesn't want your affection, she wants everyone's. And no matter how hard you try, you'll always be competing with the world. A woman who needs constant validation will never be loyal. Not because she cheats, but because she's addicted to attention. Love should bring peace. But with her, love feels like a performance you're always one applause away from losing. Number 4, the materialistic woman. With her, love is never about connection. It's about conversion. Every moment, every gesture, every conversation eventually circles back to value. Not emotional value, but material worth. She doesn't ask how your day was. She asks how much your day made. You'll notice it early, but mistake it for ambition. She'll talk about standards, security, and comfort, words that sound reasonable until you realize they're all synonyms for money. To her, affection is a form of currency, and relationships are marketplaces. You pay in effort, time, and gifts. She repays you in attention, intimacy, and temporary warmth. It's a trade, not a bond. The danger with women like this isn't their greed, it's their emptiness. They measure love in possessions because they've never felt anything deeper. When they say, "I just want to feel safe," what they really mean is, "I want guarantees." And guarantees, in their world, are bought, not built. She'll praise you when you give, and withdraw when you don't. Her moods fluctuate with your wallet. When you're generous, she's affectionate. When you slow down, she turns cold. The warmth you thought was love is conditional, powered by transaction, not connection. What makes it worse is how easy it is to fall for. Because giving feels good. It feeds your instinct to provide. You'll think you're showing love, but what you're really doing is paying rent in someone else's illusion of security. Over time, you'll sense the hollowness, the silence after a gift is unwrapped, the lack of gratitude that follows your efforts. You'll start to realize that no amount of money can buy the one thing she's incapable of giving: emotional reciprocity. You can't buy love, but she'll make you believe you can, until your wallet is empty and your soul follows. When a woman values things over people, she will eventually trade you for a better offer. Because in her world, love isn't sacred, it's negotiable. And you're just the current bid. The awakening comes when you finally stop trying to prove your worth through what you can give. Because real connection doesn't come with receipts, it comes with respect. Number 5, the what's mine is mine type. You'll recognize her by how quickly everything becomes about her. Her needs, her plans, her comfort. She might call it independence, but what it really is selfishness dressed up as self-love. At first, it's refreshing. She seems confident, assertive, strong. But once you get close, that confidence turns into territory. Every part of your relationship exists to serve her. This kind of woman believes in equality, as long as she's winning. She'll expect your time, your effort, your loyalty, and your emotional support. But when it's her turn to reciprocate, she suddenly becomes too busy, too tired, or not good at expressing emotions. You'll start giving more, just to keep the peace. And without realizing it, you'll find yourself in a one-way relationship, where compromise only flows in one direction. She'll use guilt as her currency. If you ever ask for something back, attention, empathy, or simply balance, she'll twist it into selfishness on your part. "Why can't you just support me?" she'll say, while never noticing that you've been doing exactly that all along. The more you give, the more invisible you become. Your kindness doesn't inspire her, it enables her. Soon, you'll be walking on eggshells, trying not to disrupt her comfort. You'll apologize for being tired. You'll justify her coldness. You'll convince yourself that maybe this is what maturity looks like. Two people focusing on their own needs. But deep down, you'll know you're slowly disappearing. Love cannot survive when one person is always taking and never giving. It suffocates under imbalance. And with her, imbalance is the foundation. She doesn't want partnership. She wants submission disguised as devotion. You'll feel the exhaustion long before you admit it. That quiet ache of knowing you're investing in something that gives you nothing back. And one day, it will click. This isn't love. It's servitude. Love can't breathe when it's one-sided. And with her, it always is. When you finally stop feeding her sense of entitlement, she'll call you selfish. Let her. Because in truth, you've just remembered how to protect your own peace. Number 6, the insecure woman. At first, her need for reassurance feels sweet, even flattering. She wants to know where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. You tell yourself it's because she cares. But soon, you'll notice it's not curiosity. It's control. Every question hides a fear. Every fear becomes a rule. And every rule quietly reshapes your life. The insecure woman doesn't build walls to keep others out. She builds cages to keep you in. Her mind is a battlefield of comparisons. Every woman she sees is a threat. Every compliment you give is a potential betrayal. You'll start defending yourself for things you haven't done, apologizing for feelings you've never had. She'll say, "I just need to feel secure." But what she really means is, "I need you to shrink so I can breathe." Her love comes with surveillance. She'll scroll through your phone, dissect your messages, monitor your tone. When you reassure her, she'll calm down for a moment. But the peace never lasts, because insecurity can't be satisfied. It only resets. What she seeks isn't truth. It's control over her anxiety, and she'll use your loyalty as the cure. What begins as tenderness soon becomes tension. You'll feel the air grow heavy around her questions. You'll start hesitating before answering your phone, not because you're hiding anything, but because you know she'll read meaning into every pause. Slowly, your world narrows until all that matters is keeping her calm. That's not love. That's captivity. Here's the painful truth. You can't fix someone's insecurity by proving your innocence. Because the problem isn't your actions, it's her fear. And no amount of love can heal a mind that feeds on doubt. You'll try to save her, to show her she's safe. But she'll only pull you deeper into her storm. Until one day, you'll realize you've become her evidence, not her partner. You can't save someone who's drowning in their own fear. They'll only pull you under. When love becomes a constant defense, you're no longer in a relationship. You're serving a sentence. And the only way out is to stop apologizing for things you didn't do and start reclaiming your peace. Number 7, the narcissist. She shines so bright at first that you mistake her glow for warmth. Everything about her feels magnetic. Her confidence, her presence, the way she makes you feel seen. But what you don't realize is that she's not looking at you. She's looking through you to admire her own reflection in your eyes. The narcissistic woman doesn't fall in love. She recruits. You're not her partner. You're her audience. She needs admiration the way others need oxygen. Every compliment, every act of attention, every moment you spend worshipping her, it feeds her sense of superiority. And the moment you stop clapping, she starts to crumble. That's when the cruelty begins. She'll belittle you with precision, then follow it with praise just sharp enough to keep you hooked. 1 minute you're her hero, the next you're her disappointment. It's not random. It's design. The constant shift between affection and rejection creates confusion, and confusion keeps you obedient. The mirror queen thrives on the illusion of power. She'll always compare, always compete, always demand that the spotlight stays on her. And when you try to talk about your needs, she'll make it about herself. You'll start apologizing for existing outside her narrative. She doesn't destroy you out of hate. She does it to keep her reflection clean. Because in her world, vulnerability is weakness and empathy is leverage. She'll borrow your emotions, twist them into proof of her dominance, and leave you questioning whether the problem was ever her at all. The hardest part isn't losing her. It's losing the version of yourself you became to keep her happy. You stop recognizing the man in the mirror because every piece of him has been rewritten to fit her fantasy. When you finally break free, she'll say you changed. She'll tell her story to make you the villain, because a narcissist can't exist without one. Let her talk. Let her rewrite. Because the moment you stop fighting to be understood, you win. She was never in love with you. She was in love with the reflection of herself she saw in your devotion. And when that mirror cracked, so did her illusion of control. Number 8. The I'm not ready woman. She'll look you in the eyes, smile softly, and say the words that trap more men than any lie ever could. I'm just not ready. It sounds gentle, even honest. But underneath that softness lies something cold. A refusal to commit, wrapped in emotional ambiguity. She wants the closeness of love, but not the responsibility. She wants your attention, but not your presence. She wants the feeling of being wanted, without ever having to choose. At first, you'll believe her. You'll think she just needs time. You'll wait, you'll prove, you'll hope. You'll tell yourself that if you're patient enough, loyal enough, or understanding enough, she'll come around. But she won't. Because the truth is, she's not waiting to be ready. She's waiting to feel something she doesn't feel for you. She'll keep you in emotional limbo, not cruelly, but conveniently. You'll be the safety net she returns to when the world disappoints her. The emotional placeholder she leans on until someone else sparks her excitement again. And when that happens, she'll drift away with a line as vague as her promise. I just need to figure myself out. You'll blame yourself. You'll replay conversations, searching for the moment you pushed too hard. But here's the truth. Her indecision isn't your failure. It's her clarity. She's already decided. She just doesn't have the courage to say it outright. You'll realize something powerful the day you stop waiting. Readiness isn't timing. It's intention. When someone wants you, you'll know. There will be no confusion, no hesitation, no maybe someday. Because real love doesn't stall. It moves. If she's not ready for love, don't wait. Because what she's really not ready for is you. You don't need to convince anyone to choose you. Waiting for someone who's undecided is just another way of teaching yourself you're not enough. Walk away, not out of anger, but out of respect for your own time, your own energy, and your own worth. Because every maybe you accept delays the life you truly deserve. You've just met 8 kinds of women, but in truth they all wear the same mask. They feed off your uncertainty, your willingness to explain, your hope that love will change them. And while each of them plays a different role, the spender, the liar, the flirt, the queen, the prisoner, the mirror, the maybe, they all have one thing in common. They take until there's nothing left of you to give. What you lose in these relationships isn't just money or time or pride. It's your sense of peace. It's that quiet strength that used to make you decisive, grounded, sure of yourself. Every encounter chips away at it, not all at once, but piece by piece, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've been living as a reaction to someone else's emotions. That's the moment men wake up. The realization that love, at its best, should build you, not bleed you. That affection without respect is just manipulation in disguise. That giving endlessly doesn't make you noble, it makes you numb. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't need to prove you're enough. You don't have to rescue someone from their own chaos just to feel valuable. The moment you stop chasing what hurts you, you start healing from what broke you. If this video opened your eyes even a little, don't scroll away. Stay sharp. Subscribe. Share it with a man who needs to hear this. And never let another woman use your emotions as her playground. Because awareness is protection. And protection is power. Real strength isn't in loving harder. It's in knowing when to stop trying to fix what's meant to teach you. And real power? It isn't in holding on. It's in knowing when to walk away. You think she left because she fell out of love. No, she left because she stopped feeling your strength. Every relationship has a hidden economy. Power and respect are the currency. The moment you stop leading, you start losing value. And it doesn't matter how much you provide, protect, or please. Once she senses weakness, attraction dies. In this video, I'll reveal the 10 most dangerous mistakes men make that cause this silent shift. These aren't random, they're psychological. And if you don't fix them, love turns into labor, and you'll end up working for a woman who doesn't even admire you. Every man deserves a reset, a chance to stop repeating the same emotional cycle and start leading again. If that's your goal, hit like, tap, subscribe, and comment one word below. Rebuild. Write it as a promise to yourself, not to anyone else. Because what we're diving into next isn't theory. It's the first step toward reclaiming the leadership you lost without even noticing. Number 1. The most dangerous mistake a man can make is mistaking love for labor. You think carrying the weight of everything means you're a good partner, that fixing, providing, and solving will earn her peace and loyalty. But here's the truth. If she's not cooperating, you're not in a relationship. You're in a one-man business that's slowly killing your energy. Picture this. You handle the bills, the plans, the emotional crises, even the smallest details. And she critiques, corrects, or simply scrolls while you burn yourself out trying to keep things running. You keep hoping she'll eventually notice your effort. But women don't respect exhaustion. They respect balance. When you do everything, you erase the need for her to contribute. You condition her to depend, not to partner. In psychology, this is called learned helplessness. When one side always carries, the other stops learning how. A woman without a teamwork mindset isn't cruel, she's conditioned. Society rewards women for receiving, not for building alongside. But as a man, if you accept that dynamic, you'll drown in silent resentment. The moment you start carrying her responsibilities, you stop leading and start serving. A healthy connection isn't about one person fixing while the other complains. It's about two people rowing in rhythm toward the same direction. The second she drops her oar, the boat starts spinning in circles, and so does your peace. Remember this: a relationship without mutual effort isn't partnership. It's emotional employment. And if she won't work with you, she's not building a life. She's borrowing yours. Number 2, you can't build something new with someone who's still haunted by what came before you. Most men don't realize this until it's too late, until they're trapped in a relationship where every moment feels like a comparison test they never signed up for. You meet her, she's charming, confident, says she knows what she wants. But as time passes, her words start to sound like echoes. Be more romantic. Be more dominant. Be more like... She never finishes the sentence, but you can hear the ghost in her tone. What she's really saying is, recreate the men who left their mark on me. That's not love. That's programming. Psychologically, every deep connection imprints emotional fingerprints. When a woman has had too many, too fast, too intense, she becomes less impressionable. Her responses aren't born in the present. They're triggered from memory. You can't teach her your rhythm because she's still dancing to someone else's beat. And here's where men lose themselves. They try harder. They adjust. They overperform. They chase after an invisible standard that was never meant for them, until one day they realize they've been auditioning for a role already played. Understand this clearly. You can't rewrite her past by performing better in her present. You're not her fresh start. You're her sequel. And sequels rarely end well. The right woman doesn't need you to compete with her history. She's ready to create a new one with you. And that's the difference between a woman who's still comparing and a woman who's still capable of being impressed. Number 3, peace at any price is the most expensive deal you'll ever make. Every man who's been in love has done it, swallowing his words, softening his truth, agreeing just to keep the calm. You tell yourself it's maturity, emotional intelligence, maybe even love. But deep down, you know you're not keeping peace. You're buying silence. Every time you fold when your values are tested, you make a silent trade, her comfort for your respect. And the moment she senses that pattern, she'll test you again, not out of cruelty, but instinct. Psychology calls it dominance testing, the subconscious way people check if their partner still has strength behind their softness. Fail the test enough times, and she'll stop seeing you as a leader. She'll start seeing you as a follower with good intentions. Women don't lose interest because men disagree. They lose interest because men dissolve. When you bend too much, you stop being a partner and start being an accessory, an emotional cushion, not a man with direction. True compromise isn't surrender. It's alignment. It's two people meeting at a middle ground that still honors both sides' integrity. But when you're the only one doing the bending, the relationship isn't balanced. It's built on your fear of conflict. And fear never earns respect. So next time you feel that urge to give in just to keep things easy, pause. Ask yourself, am I protecting peace or just avoiding tension? If it's the second, understand this. She may smile today, but she's already losing attraction tomorrow. Because no woman can truly follow a man who doesn't lead. Number 4, a woman who worships one trait will neglect all the others. Maybe she's obsessed with her kindness, but careless with her appearance. Or maybe she's flawless on the outside, yet her empathy is starving. Either way, imbalance is rot that starts slow. And by the time you notice, attraction is already dying. This happens because most people build identity through what psychologists call selective validation. They choose one quality to overdevelop, usually the one that earns them the most praise, while neglecting the rest. She tells herself she's a good person, so she doesn't need to stay disciplined, curious, or feminine. Or she convinces herself that beauty alone is currency enough to buy loyalty. The result? A woman who's lopsided, appealing in one area, hollow in another. You fall for her charm, but you end up dating her imbalance. Healthy relationships thrive on multidimensional attraction, intellect, warmth, physical connection, shared discipline. When any of these is missing, polarity fades. You start feeling like roommates, not lovers. It's not that she's evil or lazy. She's unbalanced, and imbalance always leaks energy. You can't build harmony with someone who refuses to maintain equilibrium within herself. Because when she stops valuing the full spectrum, her mind, her presence, her emotional control, she won't value yours either. So stop rewarding imbalance. Stop calling it depth when it's just neglect wearing perfume. The woman who keeps herself whole, mentally, emotionally, physically, is rare, but she's the only kind worth building with. Remember, attraction doesn't disappear by accident. It dies the moment balance does. Number 5. Boundaries aren't insecurity, they're protection. Too many men have been conditioned to believe that setting limits makes them controlling. So they say nothing when their woman keeps a circle of just friends. Men who text late, compliment often, and wait silently for an opportunity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Attention is a form of currency, and women know its value. Every message, every like, every "you look amazing" gives her a dopamine hit. The more she receives, the less she values yours. That's not jealousy. That's neuroscience. Psychologists call it the external validation loop. It's the cycle where a person becomes addicted to outside approval to feel worthy. When that happens, no matter how loyal you are, you'll always be competing against her audience. You'll give her love, they'll give her novelty, and novelty always wins when boundaries don't exist. You can't build intimacy in a room full of witnesses. Every extra man she allows into her emotional orbit dilutes your influence. What starts as friendly support can quietly evolve into emotional triangulation. She begins comparing you to them, quoting their opinions, even borrowing their validation to measure yours. That's how respect starts to fade. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she started entertaining too many options that keep her ego fed and her standards unfocused. Set boundaries early, not out of fear, but out of principle. Make it clear that emotional exclusivity matters just as much as physical loyalty. Because if her attention is a public resource, your relationship is public property. You don't need to control her. You just need to protect the space where loyalty actually lives. In focus, in restraint, and in respect. Number 6. Men don't stop caring because they're cold. They stop because nothing ever gets solved. It starts small. A few complaints here and there. Then it becomes constant. Every conversation turns into a venting session. You listen, you try to fix things, but the same topics return like a broken record. And eventually, you realize she doesn't want resolution. She wants release. In psychology, that's called emotional looping, when someone keeps expressing frustration without ever identifying a root cause. It gives temporary relief, like scratching an itch that never heals. But for the person listening, it's emotional suffocation. Men are natural problem solvers. They connect through purpose. When there's no clear problem to solve, the mind shuts down to protect itself. That's why you stop feeling, not out of indifference, but out of survival. A woman who complains without clarity trains you to disengage. Slowly, your emotional reflex fades. You start going quiet. You say less. And she interprets that silence as detachment, not realizing she created it. The longer this cycle continues, the weaker the bond becomes. Because connection can't exist without direction. You can't repair noise. You can only step away from it. What you need is communication with intention. Calm, focused, solution-oriented. If she's unwilling to meet you there, you owe it to yourself to protect your peace. Remember, love isn't about endless talking. It's about solving, growing, and evolving together. And if every conversation ends in chaos, it's not a connection. It's emotional clutter. So when the noise gets louder than the love, choose silence, not as retreat, but as self-respect. Number 7. Love without respect is slow poison. It doesn't kill you overnight. It erodes you quietly. Every time you let her speak over you, mock your values, or test your patience without consequence, a piece of your self-worth dissolves. You tell yourself she still loves you. Maybe she does. But here's the truth. Love can coexist with disrespect, and when it does, it's lethal. Men often chase affection like it's proof of value. You crave her warmth, her words, her attention. And in that craving, you ignore the absence of respect. You think love is enough to fix it. It never is. Respect is the spine of attraction. Without it, love collapses into chaos. Psychologists call this dominance testing, a subconscious behavior where one partner pushes limits to measure the other's strength. When a man keeps forgiving disrespect, she stops believing in his boundaries. Once that belief is gone, attraction fades. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel the presence of stability, a man who stands firm even when emotions rise. You can't build loyalty on love alone. Love is emotional. Respect is rational. Love fluctuates with mood, but respect endures through storms. That's why a woman may stop loving a man for a moment, but she'll never betray one she truly respects. Ask yourself, does she follow your lead because she trusts you or because she pities your persistence? If she doesn't see your boundaries, she'll eventually look past you. You don't need to demand respect. You need to embody it. When you stop tolerating disrespect disguised as passion, something changes. She either steps up or walks away. Either way, you win, because you finally chose yourself over her approval. Number 8. You don't fit into her life by erasing yours. It begins with good intentions. She wants more, and you want to provide it. So you start adjusting, stretching, overworking, convincing yourself it's love. But what you're really doing is rewriting your entire existence to fit someone else's expectations. And the moment you do, you stop being a man she admires and become a man she manages. Many men fall into this trap when dating women whose lifestyles outpace their reality. They start chasing upgrades, new clothes, better car, fancier restaurants, not because they need them, but because she does. It's the illusion of compatibility through consumption. But beneath that shine lies anxiety, resentment, and exhaustion. You're no longer leading your life. You're financing someone else's fantasy. From a psychological standpoint, this is identity erosion. The man's sense of self begins to dissolve as he attaches his worth to what he can provide. And the irony? The more you give, the less she values it. Because abundance without boundaries breeds entitlement, not gratitude. The right woman adapts to your reality, not demands a new one. She doesn't need you to change your pace. She learns to walk beside you. But the wrong one will always measure love in upgrades, not effort. So before you bend, ask yourself, if everything stopped tomorrow, the money, the pace, the attention, would she still stay? If the answer isn't clear, it's not love. It's leverage. And leverage always breaks when the pressure rises. Because when she only loves your lifestyle, she's not in love with you. She's in love with what you can maintain. Number 9. Some women never stop dating. They just take breaks. You meet her when she's between upgrades. She's charming, magnetic, knows what she wants, or at least what she thinks she deserves. She's been conditioned to believe there's always something better, just one conversation away. And if you don't recognize that early, you'll end up loving someone who's always halfway out the door. This behavior has a name: hypergamy. It's not evil, it's instinct. The drive to seek the best possible option. But when that instinct isn't managed, it becomes addiction. Comparison becomes her drug of choice, and the highs of new attention make commitment feel dull by contrast. She craves the thrill of being chosen, over and over again, not the comfort of staying chosen. Psychologically, this is a form of dopamine dependency. Each new admirer resets her reward system, making stability feel like boredom. And you, no matter how loyal, grounded, or patient, can't compete with her craving for the next emotional spike. You'll see it in the small things, the subtle flirting, the endless scrolling, the casual curiosity about what else is out there. She'll tell you she loves you, but her behavior will say she's still searching. And the most dangerous part, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. You can't outgive hypergamy, you can't outperform it. The only cure is self-awareness, and that has to come from her, not you. So stop trying to prove you're the best option. The right woman doesn't need convincing. She's already decided. Because when she's done chasing upgrades, she starts building legacy. Until then, you're just the stop between who she was and who she hopes to attract next. Number 10. Forgiveness doesn't rebuild trust. It buries self-respect. Men often mistake forgiveness for strength. You tell yourself you're being mature, taking the high road, showing emotional control. But what you're really doing is teaching her that betrayal comes without consequence. And when consequences disappear, respect follows right behind them. You think forgiving her will restore peace. It won't. It will only reset the cycle. Because forgiveness without accountability doesn't heal anything. It rewires you to tolerate pain longer. You'll start rationalizing what should never be repeated. You'll call it patience, when it's really denial. In psychology, this is called avoidance coping. It's the mind's way of avoiding loss by surrendering standards. You'd rather absorb the pain than face the finality of walking away. But every time you excuse her behavior, you erode the foundation of what makes you a leader: clarity, consequence, and consistency. The brutal truth? Once trust is broken, love changes form. It becomes guarded, distorted, transactional. You'll smile, but it'll be mechanical. You'll touch, but it'll feel hollow. And in the silence between moments, you'll hear it. The echo of what you forgave but never forgot. Forgiveness only has power when paired with transformation. If she's truly remorseful, she'll rebuild what she broke. If she's not, you're just participating in your own decline. You can't heal where the wound keeps reopening. Sometimes the strongest move isn't to stay and repair, it's to leave and rebuild yourself. Because every time you forgive without a standard, you don't restore peace. You surrender leadership. And when a man gives that up, he doesn't lose her. He loses himself. Walk away not to punish her, but to protect the part of you that still knows what loyalty is supposed to look like. Every man thinks he's the exception, until he becomes the warning. You've now seen what destroys most relationships from the inside out. 10 mistakes, 10 quiet assassins of peace, power, and purpose. And the truth that ties them all together is simple. It was never about women. It was about you. About how much of yourself you were willing to trade away just to keep something that was never meant to be kept. You don't lose women because they're complicated. You lose them because you forget who you are while trying to keep them comfortable. You stop leading. You stop setting boundaries. You start negotiating your worth. That's how control slips away. Not in one explosion, but in 1,000 quiet concessions. The real danger in love isn't heartbreak. It's corrosion. The slow decay of masculine clarity. When you start tolerating disrespect, imbalance, or manipulation, you're not loving her. You're abandoning yourself. But here's the shift. You can choose differently. You can rebuild from strength, not scarcity. You can stop chasing connection and start commanding it. Women don't destroy men. Weak standards do. When you start demanding respect before affection, cooperation before romance, accountability before forgiveness, everything changes. You stop playing defense. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop living like your worth depends on her approval. You reclaim your peace. You rebuild your rhythm. You return to yourself. That's the kind of man women follow. Not because he's loud, but because he's grounded. Not because he controls, but because he leads. So if this message hit something inside you, if it woke up the part of you that's tired of giving without return, That's not anger. That's clarity. That's your standard waking up again. And when that happens, you're not losing anymore. You're learning how to win differently. If you felt this, it's time to move with intention. Subscribe. Share this with a man who needs to hear it, and stay close, because in the next video, we'll go deeper into how men rebuild trust after betrayal. Not from pain, from power. Imagine this. She's texting you good night while another man is lying right next to her. Brutal? Yes. But in today's dating scene, it's more common than you think. The competition is invisible, but it's real, and it's happening whether you want to believe it or not. Most men ignore the early signs and end up blindsided, wondering how they missed the truth staring them in the face. Don't let that be you. In this video, I'm going to expose 5 signs she's seeing other people, and once you recognize them, you'll never have to question where you stand again. Here's what most men never realize. Women rarely reject directly. Instead, they sideline, they delay, they distract, they keep you guessing. It feels confusing, but it's not. It's intentional, and it's how they keep options open. The problem is, men want to believe the words instead of seeing the actions. That blindness is costly. But if you know how to read the patterns, everything becomes obvious, and you'll never waste time again. If you're ready to see what others ignore, hit like and subscribe right now. And I'm curious, what's the subtlest red flag you've ever picked up on? Share it in the comments. It might just save another man from falling into the same trap. Stay with me, because up next, I'll reveal the hidden dynamic in modern dating that explains why so many men feel like they're always competing and still feel one step behind. We live in an era where dating feels more like a marketplace than a connection. Swipe left, swipe right. An endless scroll of faces, each promising something better, shinier, more exciting. For women, this flood of attention can feel flattering. For men, it often feels like stepping into a crowded arena, competing against dozens of unseen rivals. You're not just talking to her, you're unknowingly up against every other man who slid into her messages that day. And that's where the tension begins. You start off strong, sending texts, making plans, investing energy. But slowly, a question creeps in. Am I the only one, or just one of many? That quiet uncertainty eats at you when she takes hours to respond, when she says she's busy, but her social media shows otherwise, when you feel like your effort is being weighed against a dozen other men. Imagine this. You're texting her consistently, doing everything right, yet it feels like waiting in line for a table that never opens up. You see other men being seated while you're stuck in limbo, wondering if your turn will ever come. That's the modern dating game, filled with false starts, endless distractions, and women who may not even realize they're spreading their attention too thin. The truth is, if you don't learn how to see the reality behind her actions, you'll end up wasting time, confidence, and emotional energy on someone who was never truly invested in you. So how do you cut through the noise and see the truth? Let's start with the first sign. Number 1. She avoids seeing you. This is one of the clearest signals a man can't afford to ignore. When a woman is genuinely interested, she'll carve out time for you, even in the middle of a packed schedule. When she wants to be with you, there are no excuses, no endless maybe next week messages. She'll find a way. But when she doesn't show up, when plans are postponed, rescheduled, or conveniently cancelled over and over again, that's not busyness, it's avoidance. And avoidance is often a cover for divided attention. She's keeping her schedule open for someone else. Think about it. A man who matters to her isn't put on hold. He isn't left waiting for that elusive day when her calendar magically clears up. If she keeps telling you she's too busy to meet, but she still manages to go out with friends or post about her weekend adventures online, you're not dealing with bad timing. You're dealing with misplaced priorities. and you are not one of them. Picture this. You suggest grabbing dinner. She agrees in theory but never confirms. The night comes, she vanishes with a last-minute excuse. You try again the next week. Same story. After a while, you realize you're chasing shadows. She's not rejecting you outright, but she's not committing either. That limbo is where countless men lose weeks, even months of their lives waiting for a woman who's already moved on emotionally. Here's the hard truth. If she really wanted to see you, nothing would stop her. She'd skip a night out, rearrange her schedule, or even sacrifice sleep just to spend time with you. That's what attraction does. It pulls people together. If you don't feel that pull from her, it's because she's being pulled elsewhere. This isn't about demanding all of her time. It's about recognizing whether she values any of it enough to give it to you. When she doesn't, you're left holding on to excuses instead of experiences. And that's the moment to ask yourself, if she's not showing up for me, who is she showing up for? But let's say you do manage to see her every now and then. The next question becomes just as important. Is your connection actually moving forward, or are you stuck in the same place? Number 2, there's no progress. Relationships, even in their earliest stages, are meant to move forward. The rhythm may vary. Some connections move quickly, others more slowly, but there's always a sense of growth. More conversations, deeper intimacy, introductions to her world. When that growth is missing, when everything feels stalled in place, it's a sign you may not be the only one she's seeing. Think about the pattern. You talk, you text, maybe you've gone on a couple of dates. But weeks pass and nothing changes. You're not meeting her friends. You're not invited into her life. There's no hint of a future, no movement toward exclusivity. You're locked in a holding pattern, circling the same airspace with no permission to land. Why does this happen? Often it's because she's keeping her options open. She's not ready to cut ties with other men because she's still evaluating. You're not the priority, you're part of the rotation. And that lack of commitment shows up as stagnation in your connection. Here's the psychological truth. When a woman sees you as someone she wants long-term, she starts weaving you into her reality. She'll drop hints about the future. She'll introduce you to the people close to her. She'll let you in on parts of her life she doesn't share with just anyone. If none of that is happening after weeks or months, she's not seeing you as her future. She's keeping you as an option. Imagine putting in effort, paying attention, showing consistency, yet months later you realize you're in the exact same place as day one. No forward motion, no deeper bond. That's not bad luck, it's by design. She doesn't want to move forward with you because she's still moving forward with others. The most painful part? A man can waste enormous amounts of energy here, thinking if he just tries harder, if he just proves himself more, things will change. But they don't. Because progress isn't something you can force. It's something she must want with you. Remember this. A woman who sees you in her future will start weaving you into her present. If she's not doing that, then the writing is already on the wall. And when progress stalls, something else always creeps in. Distance. Number 3, she becomes distant. Closeness doesn't just vanish without a reason. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, her warmth shows in the way she texts, the tone of her voice, the excitement in her eyes when you meet. But when that warmth suddenly cools, when her presence shifts from engaged to detached, it's rarely random. Something else, or someone else, has entered the picture. This is one of the most disorienting signs for men because it often happens without warning. One week, she's laughing at your jokes, sharing stories, making you feel like the connection is growing. The next, her messages shrink to one-word replies. Her availability evaporates, and she seems emotionally checked out. It leaves you questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? But the truth often lies elsewhere. Her attention has been redirected. Modern dating makes this shift even more likely. Dating apps never close. Her phone is a constant stream of notifications and new options. A woman who once lit up when your name appeared on her screen may now be distracted by someone else's message. She may still reply, but her energy tells the real story. Cold, delayed, minimal effort. Imagine sitting across from her at dinner. A week ago, she leaned in, hanging on to every word. Tonight, she's scrolling through her phone, distant, uninterested. You sense it immediately, but you hesitate to accept it because denial is easier than admitting she's already pulled away. Here's the harsh truth. When a woman grows distant without explanation, it's because her emotions are being invested elsewhere. That doesn't always mean she's already with another man, but it does mean she's exploring that possibility, and you're slipping down her list of priorities. And this is where men often sabotage themselves. They respond to distance by chasing harder, texting more, trying to win her back. But that only confirms her decision, because genuine attraction doesn't need to be chased. When she's distant, the message is clear. She's no longer as invested in you. A woman's warmth doesn't fade without a reason. If she's pulling away from you, she's leaning towards someone else. And when that happens, you'll notice something even harsher. You're no longer the priority. Number 4, you're just an option. One of the hardest truths for a man to accept is realizing he isn't her priority. He's just part of her backup plan. You can feel it in the dynamic. You're the one reaching out. You're the one suggesting plans. You're the one investing time, energy, and thought into the connection. And in return, minimal effort, delayed responses, half-hearted enthusiasm. This imbalance is not accidental. It's a reflection of where you stand. A woman who's genuinely interested won't leave you carrying the weight of the connection alone. She'll meet you halfway, sometimes even more. But when she treats your effort as optional, it's because she sees you as optional. Think about it. Do you find yourself checking your phone, waiting for her to initiate, only to realize she never does? Do plans only happen when you push for them? Does she vanish for days, then reappear just enough to keep you hooked? These are not signs of genuine interest. These are signs you've been placed on the bench while someone else is playing the main game. Psychologically, many women keep options around for attention, validation, or as emotional safety nets. It doesn't mean she's malicious. It means she hasn't decided to choose you. And until she does, you'll always be competing with invisible rivals you can't see. Here's the painful cost. When you stay in this dynamic, you start draining yourself. You pour energy into someone who gives you crumbs in return. Over time, your confidence erodes. You begin questioning your worth, thinking maybe if you just do more, she'll finally see you. But that day never comes, because you were never positioned as the priority. The truth is simple. If you feel like an option, it's because you are one. And no man who respects himself should tolerate that role. This isn't about arrogance, it's about boundaries. When a woman treats you like a side choice, the strongest move you can make is to pull back. Stop auditioning for a spot in her life. The moment you do, you'll see clearly that her lack of investment wasn't about you. It was about her decision to keep you in reserve. And the cruelest part? When you're stuck as just an option, you'll always feel confused. Number 5. Confusion equals clarity. Here's a reality most men avoid facing. If you constantly feel confused about where you stand with her, then the answer is already clear. You don't stand anywhere that matters. A woman who values you won't leave you guessing. She'll make it obvious through her actions, her consistency, and the way she integrates you into her life. The uncertainty you feel isn't a puzzle to solve. It's the message itself. Think about how different it feels when someone is truly invested. You don't need to overanalyze every text. You don't wonder if she'll cancel last minute. You don't question whether she sees you as important because she shows it. Her attention, her effort, her time, they remove the confusion. The opposite is just as telling. If you're stuck in constant doubt, that's not bad communication. That's her lack of commitment. Picture a man who spends 6 months in a limbo relationship. They talk, they go out occasionally, but he never knows where he stands. He's told, "Not yet," or "I'm not ready," over and over again. Then one day he discovers she's been dating someone else the entire time. The confusion wasn't an accident. It was the cover story for her indecision. And he wasted half a year of his life waiting for clarity that never came. Here's the painful truth. Real interest doesn't create chaos. It creates certainty. If you have to ask, what are we? The answer is already not much. If you lie awake at night, wondering whether she sees a future with you, the answer is probably no. And men pay a heavy price for ignoring this. They lose time, months or even years locked in cycles of mixed signals. They lose confidence, thinking maybe they're not good enough, when the issue is her lack of choice, not their lack of value. And worst of all, they lose opportunities with women who would actually prioritize them, because they're stuck waiting for crumbs of attention from someone who won't. Remember this. Confusion is not a stage in building a healthy relationship. Confusion is the answer. If you're confused, she's not committed. Period. So what should a man do when he sees these signs? That's where the real shift happens. When you strip everything down, it comes to one undeniable reality. Actions always speak louder than words. A woman can tell you she's busy. She can tell you she's interested. She can tell you to be patient. But if her actions don't match her words, that contradiction is the only truth you need. This is where so many men fall into the trap. They cling to what she says, while ignoring what she does. They hold on to promises, excuses, or sweet talk, hoping it means something. But hope is not a strategy. Observing her behavior is. If she doesn't show up, if she doesn't make room for you, if she doesn't invest, then you already have your answer. And that answer demands a response from you. Because the real question isn't, is she seeing someone else? The real question is, why are you tolerating behavior that tells you she's not choosing you? Here's how a man reclaims control. First, stop chasing women who don't prioritize you. The more you pursue someone who treats you like an afterthought, the less respect she has for you. Second, pull back your energy. Invest it where it's valued, not where it's drained. A woman who's serious won't need constant reminders of your worth. She'll recognize it immediately. Third, reclaim your time and self-respect. Every hour wasted on someone who doesn't choose you is an hour stolen from building your confidence, your goals, and your future. The truth is sharp, but freeing. The moment you stop tolerating confusion, you become unstoppable. You stop living in reaction to her mood swings and mixed signals, and you start living from a place of clarity and strength. And that's the shift that changes everything. You're no longer the man begging for attention. You're the man who recognizes his value and refuses to settle for less. And that leads us to the final message. You've now seen the 5 undeniable signs that she's likely seeing other people. She avoids spending time with you. Your connection doesn't progress. Her warmth turns to distance. You're treated like an option instead of a priority. And worst of all, you're left in a fog of confusion. Each of these signs tells the same story. You're not at the center of her focus. And here's the truth that most men don't want to face. When a woman really wants you, you don't have to decode signals. You don't have to second-guess her words or chase for scraps of attention. She makes it known. She invests. She prioritizes. Anything less is not interest. It's distraction. The message is clear. If she leaves you feeling uncertain, then you are not her choice. And if you're not her choice, it's time to make yourself the choice. Stop waiting. Stop negotiating for scraps of time and attention. Start reclaiming your power by walking away from anyone who can't give you the clarity and respect you deserve. The strongest men are not the ones who convince every woman to stay. They're the ones who know when to leave. They don't beg to be chosen. They choose themselves first, and that's exactly what makes them magnetic to the right kind of woman. So if these signs opened your eyes, don't just let this be another video you watch and forget. Act on it. Shift your mindset. Protect your time, your confidence, and your energy. And if you found value here, take the next step. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with a man who needs to hear it. Because knowledge alone isn't power. Applied knowledge is. And the moment you apply it, you stop being the man who waits to be chosen, and you become the man who chooses. Ask yourself this. Why do smart, successful men still get destroyed in love? Why do men with money, power, and discipline still end up cheated on, divorced, or used as backups? It's not because they're weak, it's because they're blind. Blind to the 4 brutal truths women live by but will never confess. And if you don't face these truths, it doesn't matter how strong or successful you are, you will lose in love. But the moment you understand them, everything changes. In this video, I'll reveal the 4 brutal truths that women will never admit, but every man needs to hear before it's too late. If you think you already know everything about women, this video will test that belief. I've worked with men who swore they understood it all, until these truths crushed their assumptions. Subscribe right now, like this video, and tell me in the comments, are you open to having your illusions shattered? Because the first truth I'm about to share will challenge everything you thought you knew about love and commitment. Number 1. In many relationships, women judge your future, while men must judge her past. Most men step into relationships blind to this brutal asymmetry. Many women are wired by nature to scan forward. They look at you and silently calculate, can he provide stability? Can he navigate storms? Will he protect me and elevate my life? Or will he collapse when pressure arrives? For a woman, a man's romantic past is often irrelevant. A man could have dated 100 women, and in her eyes it can prove he has experience, social proof, and a sense of status. His history can become an asset, not a liability. But men, you do not have that same luxury. For you, her past matters deeply. And it is here that too many of you stumble, because you are told to ignore it, to be progressive, to not judge. Yet a woman's history is the greatest predictor of her future with you. A woman who has cycled through chaotic relationships, who has built a trail of broken commitments, who has treated intimacy like a hobby. These are not minor details. They are warning signals. Why does this matter? Because patterns repeat. A woman who struggled to attach before will struggle again. A woman who has lived in drama will unconsciously create it again. And if you ignore this truth, you will not simply inherit her affection. You will inherit her unresolved baggage. Think of it like buying a house. You do not just look at the shiny kitchen. You ask about the foundation. Was it flooded before? Has it been repaired poorly? Because if you do not, you will discover the cracks when they are already destroying your investment. A woman's past is the foundation. Ignore it, and you will build your life on quicksand. I have seen too many men learn this lesson the hard way. A man falls for charm and beauty. He convinces himself he is the one who will finally tame her chaos. For 6 months, everything seems intoxicating. Then the cracks appear. The late-night arguments, the unresolved loyalty issues, the endless comparisons to exes. Suddenly, he realizes he did not meet a partner ready for commitment. He adopted a storm disguised as love. The brutal reality is this. A woman's past tells you the truth she will never advertise. She will not hand you a resume of mistakes. She will not confess the drama she has created before. But those stories are carved into her habits, her reflexes, her triggers. You either read them carefully, or you end up paying the price for that oversight. Now some men will object, but shouldn't we forgive? Shouldn't we give her a clean slate? Forgiveness is one thing, blindness is another. You can forgive her past and still recognize that it may make her incompatible for a future with you. Choosing to ignore it is not compassion. It is self-destruction. Let me make this clear. Your job as a man is not to judge her harshly, not to shame her, but to evaluate with open eyes. Is this woman's history aligned with the future you want to build? Or are you seducing yourself into denial because you are lonely? Most men who fail in love are not defeated by women. They are defeated by their own refusal to see the truth staring them in the face. And the painful truth is this: a woman's past tells you everything about her future with you. Ignore these patterns, and you risk paying a heavy price. That is not cruelty, that is cause and effect. So, do not approach women with naive hope. Approach them with discernment. Study her patterns, not just her words. Watch how she has treated commitment before, not just how she promises to treat you now. Because the man who filters wisely will save himself years of wasted time and endless heartbreak. Number 2, modern dating culture often creates inflated expectations. Today, it's common to see a belief that a woman deserves a king while bringing nothing but chaos to his throne. This is not an insult. It is a brutal observation that has been proven again and again in the modern dating landscape. Let's break it down. From a psychological standpoint, many women are wired to seek partners who can provide greater stability or status. This is a natural instinct to reach up, not sideways or down. In itself, it is neither good nor bad. It is simply human nature. The problem is when this instinct collides with modern culture, social media, dating apps, and a flood of attention from desperate men, and suddenly a person's self-perception inflates far beyond reality. Here's the picture. A woman in her late 30s, 2 children from previous relationships, still believes she can command the loyalty of a wealthy, high-status man who makes more than she does, is more competent than she is, and has no interest in raising another man's children. Why? Because for years she has been conditioned to think she deserves the very best. Every like on her photos, every message in her inbox, every man offering free attention reinforces the illusion. I am valuable no matter what. But value in the dating marketplace is not measured by likes or comments. It is measured by desirability and long-term viability. Harsh as it sounds, a woman's prime window of attraction often peaks in her early 20s. That is when beauty, fertility, and youth converge. Men, on the other hand, frequently peak later in their late 30s or 40s, once they have built competence, resources, and status. So while a man's value can climb with time, a woman's tends to decline unless paired with exceptional character and loyalty. Yet this reality is often ignored. Some women believe earning a high salary offsets everything else. They think degrees and promotions make them more appealing to high-value men. But here's the truth. Men do not typically share their resources the way women do. A successful man will use his wealth to support his partner. A successful woman rarely shares her wealth in the same way. Her money is hers, his money is theirs. And this creates a brutal mismatch when she expects him to out-earn her just to qualify. I have spoken with countless men who run into this exact wall. They meet women who bring long lists of demands. Must be funny, must be strong, must be kind, must love her children as his own, must out-earn her, must be more ambitious than her, must carry the confidence of an alpha and the patience of a saint. Meanwhile, what does she bring? Baggage, obligations, and an inflated sense of entitlement that bears no resemblance to her actual position in the marketplace. This is why so many men end up burned out. They think if they just keep improving themselves, if they check one more box on her endless list, then she will finally commit. But that list was never meant to be completed. It was meant to keep you chasing, to keep her feeling like the prize while you exhaust yourself, proving you are worthy. And that's when the brutal realization hits. Her checklist has 200 boxes, and you, her plan B, are supposed to tick them all. That is not love, that is delusion. Now let me be clear, not every woman has these expectations. Some understand their reality and adjust with grace. But the modern dating culture rewards the opposite. Women with inflated standards gain attention, validation, and a sense of power, even if that power collapses when faced with real commitment. For men, the lesson is straightforward. Do not negotiate with fantasy. If you find yourself with a woman whose demands outweigh her contributions, you are not her partner, you are her unpaid employee. And if you accept that role, she will never respect you, because deep down, she knows she has placed herself above what she can realistically command. You must flip the script. Instead of asking, how can I meet her standards? Ask, do her standards even make sense? Do they align with reality, or are they inflated by ego and external validation? That single shift in mindset will save you from countless wasted years. Men who thrive in love do not chase entitlement. They set boundaries. They recognize when a woman's expectations are incompatible with reality. And they walk away, even when she is attractive, even when she seems charming. Because a relationship built on delusion will always collapse under its own weight. And the cold, undeniable truth is this. Modern culture often leads women to believe they are worth far more than they truly bring to the table. If you do not see it clearly, you will become the man who sacrifices everything just to prove you are enough, and still ends up discarded when she realizes she was chasing a fantasy. So, stop chasing impossible checklists. Stop negotiating with entitlement. Build your value as a man, not to impress women who cannot be satisfied, but to attract those rare women who see reality, respect boundaries, and are capable of genuine partnership. That is how you win, not by being her fantasy provider, but by being the man who refuses to play in a rigged game. Number 3, there are no perfect partners, only untold stories. The fairy tale lives deep inside every man. You believe somewhere out there is a woman untouched by chaos, immune to temptation, immune to betrayal. You tell yourself if you just search hard enough, you will find the perfect one, the flawless partner. But here is the brutal truth. That flawless partner does not exist. The only difference between someone who seems perfect and someone who seems flawed is the story they have not told you yet. Human beings are not blank slates. Every woman you meet carries a history, relationships, mistakes, choices, secrets. Some of those stories are visible, many are not. When you meet her, you only see the curated version, the polished highlights. What you do not see is the hidden archive. The late-night regrets, the impulsive flings, the questionable decisions she would rather erase. And because she knows these stories could ruin her image, she will not reveal them willingly. This is not cynicism, it is psychology. People present the best version of themselves to secure connection. But when men buy into the illusion of a perfect partner, they blind themselves. They believe her silence equals purity. They assume her lack of confession equals lack of past. That assumption destroys men. Because when the truth eventually surfaces, and it almost always does, the betrayal cuts twice as deep. First, you feel the pain of what actually happened. Second, you feel the sting of your own denial. I once spoke with a man who built his entire life around a woman he swore was different. She dressed conservatively, avoided nightlife, and spoke about loyalty. For 3 years, he believed he had found the exception. Then, One casual conversation with one of her old friends revealed a side of her past he never imagined. Multiple partners in her early 20s, a reputation for drama, stories she had carefully hidden. He was devastated, not because of the past itself, but because of the illusion he had chosen to believe. The marketplace has changed. Social media, dating apps, endless validation. These platforms have given every woman the opportunity to curate a polished image. She can filter photos, filter stories, filter reality. But behind the curtain, the same dynamics exist. Attraction, temptation, impulsivity. They do not vanish just because she looks innocent. Let's be blunt. Stop chasing the fairy tale. There are no angels in the marketplace, only human beings with pasts they will not confess. Believing otherwise is not hope, it is self-deception. So what should you do? The answer is not paranoia. It is not interrogating her about every choice she ever made. It is discernment. Instead of asking, is she a perfect partner? Ask, what patterns are visible in her actions? How does she handle temptation? How does she handle responsibility? Because while the past cannot be erased, the present reveals whether she has grown from it or whether she is still repeating it. The mistake men make is assuming they need purity. What you actually need is consistency. You need a partner whose current behavior proves she is disciplined, loyal, and stable. If she hides, deflects, or lashes out when you ask simple questions, that is not a sign of innocence. That is a sign of stories she does not want you to discover. And the dangerous consequence is this. When you idolize the idea of a perfect partner, you blind yourself to reality. You hand over your trust without requiring proof. And in doing so, you set yourself up for the very betrayal you fear most. The woman you believed was different turns out to be human, flawed, imperfect, carrying scars like everyone else. The men who succeed in love are not the ones who find unicorns. They are the ones who accept that no one is flawless and who set boundaries that filter out destructive patterns. They do not chase illusions. They measure reality, and because of that, they are harder to manipulate, harder to blind, harder to break. So, stop searching for the perfect woman. She does not exist. Start searching for alignment between words and actions. Look for consistency, not perfection. And remember, every person has untold stories. The question is not whether they have a past. The question is whether you can live with it. Number 4. You may not actually be her first choice. This is the hardest pill for men to swallow. When she chose you, someone else may still have been on her mind, and in too many cases, that ghost never leaves. Psychologists describe this as an emotional imprint from a peak experience. When a woman once connected with a man who awakened her strongest attraction, whether through charm, dominance, or chemistry, that memory embeds itself deep in her psyche. Even if that relationship collapsed, even if years have passed, she can carry a lingering attachment to it into every new relationship. She may be with you in body, but part of her is still with him in spirit. Here is how it plays out. A man dates a woman, invests himself, commits fully. Everything seems fine on the surface. Then, in a quiet moment, he discovers evidence, a hidden message, an old photo she cannot delete, a comparison she lets slip during an argument. Suddenly, he realizes he is competing with a memory he can never defeat. Because you cannot outshine a ghost. You cannot win against the pedestal she built for another man. This is not about paranoia. It is about reality. Many men enter relationships assuming once commitment is made, the past is erased. But a woman's feelings do not obey logic. She can agree to exclusivity and still long for the man who once stirred her deepest desire. And when that longing lingers, you are no longer her first choice. You are her safety net. Make no mistake, the price for ignoring this is crippling. A man who is not her first choice will rarely receive her full devotion. He will receive her compliance, her companionship, perhaps even her affection, but not her fire, not her deepest respect, not her unfiltered desire. Over time, this imbalance erodes him. He compromises, he concedes, he bends to keep her satisfied. Each concession makes him smaller, weaker, less attractive, until eventually she leaves, or worse, she stays and slowly destroys his confidence with quiet contempt. I recall a story of a man who discovered an email his girlfriend had written days after agreeing to exclusivity with him. In that email, she was begging another man to take her back, promising they would have beautiful children together, insisting they were perfect for each other. To the man reading it, the truth shattered him. He thought he was building a future with her. In reality, he was nothing more than a rebound, a placeholder, while she pined for someone else. And the brutal bottom line is this: if you are not her first choice, you will never get her best. You will only get what is left, and what is left will never be enough. So, how do you protect yourself? First, listen to your intuition. If something feels off, if you sense she is emotionally elsewhere, do not ignore it. Second, observe her behavior. Does she speak often about her past relationships? Does she compare you, even subtly, to someone before? Does she seem lukewarm in her admiration of you, like she is going through the motions? These are signs she may still be attached to another man. And here is the most important step. Never settle for being the backup plan. It is better to be alone than to build your life with someone who secretly longs for another, because you deserve more than borrowed affection. You deserve a woman who sees you as her priority, not her consolation prize. The men who win in love are not the ones who tolerate being second. They are the ones who walk away when they realize they are not first. They refuse to fight a losing battle against a ghost. And because of that, they keep their self-respect intact, their confidence unbroken, and their standards high. So, do not waste years trying to convince a woman to forget the man she once adored. Do not bleed yourself dry attempting to prove you are better. If you sense you are not her first choice, step back. Because while you cannot control who imprinted on her heart, you can control who you give yours to. Most men lose in love not because women are impossible to understand, but because they refuse to confront the truths that are right in front of them. Over the last few minutes, you have seen 4 brutal realities. In many relationships, women judge your future, while you must judge her past. Modern dating culture often creates inflated expectations. There are no perfect partners waiting for you, only human beings with untold stories. And perhaps most painfully, you may not be her first choice, no matter how much she commits with words. When you put these truths together, the picture becomes clear. Love in the modern world is not about finding perfection. It is about seeing reality without filters. Too many men step into relationships blind, hoping to rewrite a woman's history, hoping to satisfy demands that cannot be met, hoping to be the exception in her story. That blindness costs them years of time, mountains of energy, and sometimes their entire identity. The men who win are the men who wake up. They stop negotiating with fantasy. They stop searching for unicorns. They stop begging for validation from women who were never invested in them. Instead, they set boundaries. They evaluate with clarity. They demand alignment between words and actions. They accept nothing less than being a woman's first choice. Now you see the code in the matrix. The question is no longer whether these truths are fair. The question is whether you will continue pretending, or whether you will finally play the game with your eyes open. If even one of these truths hit you hard, that means you needed to hear it. Do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with a brother who is still walking blind, who needs the wake-up call before it is too late. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your story might help another man recognize his own. And before you leave, hit subscribe. Every week, we break down the hidden dynamics of love and power, so fewer men lose themselves in illusions. The world will not hand you the truth. These realities will not be confessed openly. That is why you must face them, accept them, and use them as weapons to protect your future. Because the only men who win in love are the men who refuse to play by lies. Men lose everything: money, years, even their self-respect. Not because they loved, but because they loved blind. They didn't see the hidden moves, the unspoken rules, the instincts women never talk about. And that blindness is why breakups feel like ambushes, why divorce feels like betrayal, why so many men walk away asking, "What just happened?" The answer is here. These aren't random events. They're predictable if you know what to look for. So stay with me, because I'm about to reveal 5 secrets women don't want men to know, and they could save you from mistakes that millions of men have already paid for. Most men walk into relationships believing in fairness. They think, if I give love, loyalty, and effort, I'll naturally receive the same in return. It's a comforting belief. It feels logical. But here's the problem. Women don't operate by that system. They're not evil for it. They're not wrong for it. But they are wired differently. Women are guided by survival instincts that stretch back thousands of years. For them, attraction and commitment aren't simply about reciprocity or balance. They are about aligning with what secures the best future, the strongest protection, and the greatest advantage. This isn't something most women consciously plot on a piece of paper. It's a subconscious program running beneath the surface. And because men expect fairness, they miss what's actually happening in front of them. That's why so many men get blindsided. They don't recognize the signs because they're looking for evidence of justice, when what's really at play is strategy. They believe in loyalty points, in building emotional credit, while she is responding to biology, opportunity, and instinct. Here's the brutal truth. If you don't understand these rules, you're not even playing the same game. You can spend years investing, only to wake up one day and realize the rules you believed in never existed for her. The way forward isn't paranoia. It's awareness. Stop listening only to words. Watch actions. Watch consistency. Understand the patterns. When you start seeing reality clearly, you stop being the man who gets blindsided, and you become the man who's always 2 steps ahead. Number 1, monkey branching. This is one of the hardest truths for men to accept because it feels deeply unfair. Monkey branching is the idea that many women rarely let go of one relationship without already having another branch to swing to. Just like a monkey doesn't release one branch until its hand has grabbed the next, many women won't leave a man unless there's already someone waiting in the wings. Here's how it often plays out. She tells you she needs space or that she's confused. You think she's reflecting, maybe taking time to figure herself out. But in reality, there's usually another man already in her orbit. Sometimes she's been talking to him for weeks, sometimes months, and she's simply waiting until she feels secure enough to make the jump. That's why so many men feel shock when a breakup happens. One day she says it's over, and within days or even hours, she's in someone else's arms. For you, the breakup feels like a sudden earthquake. For her, it was a carefully timed step she had been preparing in silence. Why does this happen? Part of it is social conditioning. Women are judged harshly for being alone or for openly pursuing multiple options, so they protect themselves by ensuring they're never left empty-handed. Another part is biology. Security and continuity matter more to them than the romance of a clean break. Survival instinct tells them it's safer to have a backup than to risk the unknown. The emotional punch for men is realizing how quickly this can occur. You might believe there's a grace period, a respectful pause, some time before she moves on. But in truth, transitions often happen faster than men dare imagine. It's not uncommon for the next relationship to overlap with the last, hidden behind the curtain until she's ready to reveal it. And here's the real danger. While she's lining up her next branch, she may keep you on a string with the classic "let's stay friends" routine. It's not about genuine friendship. It's about keeping you as an emotional safety net, someone she can fall back on if the new option doesn't work out. If you take only one thing from this, let it be this: don't let yourself be the backup. When a woman ends things but still tries to hold on to you just in case, recognize it for what it is: self-preservation on her part, not loyalty or love. Your power comes from clarity. When the branch is released, step back. Don't wait for her to swing back to you, because if she does, it will never be out of pure devotion. It will be out of convenience, and you deserve far more than being someone's backup plan. Number 2, hypergamy doesn't care about relationship equity. Men are taught from childhood that hard work pays off. If you put in the hours, if you sacrifice, you eventually get rewarded. Naturally, many men carry this mindset into relationships. They think, if I love her, support her, fix her car, raise her kids, and sacrifice everything I have, surely that creates a kind of emotional bank account. I deposit enough, and when I need it, I'll be able to make a withdrawal. Here's the brutal reality. That account doesn't exist. Hypergamy, the instinct that drives women to seek the best available option, doesn't keep score the way you imagine. She's not looking at the balance sheet of your sacrifices when she evaluates the relationship. She's comparing her current situation to what else is out there. If she perceives a better deal, your years of effort weigh almost nothing against the possibility of something more. That's why men who bend over backwards are often the ones left in shock. They believe loyalty is secured by investment. But investment only matters if she still sees you as her best option. The minute she doesn't, the years of cooking, fixing, paying, and supporting evaporate in a heartbeat. The emotional punch here is this: you could spend a lifetime building, but she can walk away in an instant if she sees something better. And it won't be about fairness. It won't be about all the times you deserved credit. Hypergamy is not cruel. It's indifferent. It doesn't operate on fairness. It operates on perceived value. Men who don't grasp this cling to the illusion of security. They double down, giving more, sacrificing more, hoping to lock in loyalty through effort. But the more they give, the more they risk becoming invisible. Because what matters isn't how much you give, but whether she still feels you are her best possible choice. So what's the way forward? Stop playing banker in a game that doesn't honor your deposits. Invest in yourself. Build your strength, your confidence, your independence. A man who understands hypergamy doesn't resent women for it. He adapts. He makes sure he is constantly leveling up, not for her, but for himself. Because when you live as a man of value, you're not bargaining for loyalty with effort. You're commanding loyalty with presence. That shift changes everything. It pulls you out of desperation and puts you back in control. Number 3. Women spin more plates than men realize. When men date casually, it's usually out in the open. They'll admit to friends that they're seeing multiple women, and society often criticizes them for it. But when women do the same thing, it tends to happen under the radar. They don't announce it, they don't showcase it, and they certainly don't tell the man they're dating. Here's the reality. Women often manage multiple options at the same time. Some of those options are romantic, some are emotional, and some are simply in case. They may not even label it as plate spinning themselves, but the behavior speaks for itself. She might be texting one man while planning dinner with another, while keeping a third hanging with occasional attention. I once heard a story from a man who glanced at a girlfriend's phone. In her contact list, he noticed names like Dave, lawyer, Chris, contractor, Philip, accountant. These weren't harmless notes. They were a coded way of tracking who brought what to the table. To her, each man was not just a name, but a potential role, security, money, adventure, or backup. This is why so many men are blindsided. You think you're the only one, the special one. She tells you she's not really seeing anyone else, and you take that at face value. Meanwhile, you could be one of several men orbiting her at the same time. The emotional punch is this. While you're investing in her as if she's the only woman in your life, she might be keeping her options wide open, evaluating which plate spins most smoothly. And in her world, spinning plates is not betrayal, it's insurance. Why does this happen? Because women carry more social risk when it comes to dating. Being openly non-exclusive can bring judgment, so they keep it quiet. But the instinct behind it is survival. Having multiple options lowers the chance of being left with nothing. So what should you do with this knowledge? Don't be naive. Don't assume exclusivity until it's explicitly agreed upon and proven by consistent action over time. Stop confusing attention with commitment. Pay attention to patterns. Does her availability fluctuate? Does she disappear for stretches? Does her story shift depending on the day? These aren't accidents. They're signals. The point isn't to demonize women for plate spinning. The point is to wake up to the reality that your position might not be as secure as you imagine. And once you see that clearly, you'll stop over-investing in someone who hasn't made you her priority. Because in the end, your value isn't measured by how well you can compete for a place in her rotation. Your value comes from knowing you don't need to compete at all. Number 4, women get bored faster than men. If you look at long-term relationships, you'll notice a pattern. Men often settle into stability and routine, while women begin to feel restless. For men, comfort feels like success. He thinks, we've built a life, we've got our rhythm, this is good. But for women, that same rhythm can quickly turn into monotony. What feels safe to you may feel suffocating to her. Research backs this up. In marriages and long-term partnerships, women initiate the majority of breakups and divorces, often around 70% or more. Why? Because while men's desire tends to fade gradually over time, women's desire often plummets soon after the honeymoon phase is over. Once the novelty fades, so does their passion. Think about the timeline. You might still feel content 5 years in, even if things aren't perfect. But she may already be daydreaming about what's missing, what could be better, or who else might provide the spark she no longer feels with you. That's why so many men hear lines like, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore." It's not that something catastrophic happened. It's that her emotional and physical interest drained much faster than yours. Here's the emotional punch. While you're still telling yourself, "We're doing fine," she may already feel trapped. You're okay with the routine, but for her, routine becomes a cage. By the time you notice the problem, she's often mentally checked out, planning her exit or searching for an escape. This doesn't mean every woman is doomed to get bored. But it does mean men can't afford to go on autopilot. Too many men lose their edge after commitment. They stop growing, stop flirting, stop challenging her to stay invested. They assume stability equals permanence. But for women, stability without excitement often equals decline. So what's the lesson? You can't rely on comfort alone to hold a relationship together. You must continue to cultivate attraction, novelty, and growth. That doesn't mean becoming someone you're not or living in fear of her leaving. It means refusing to stagnate. Stay ambitious. Stay curious. Stay unpredictable in the best way. Because if you don't, she'll seek that stimulation elsewhere, or she'll simply leave. Remember this. When you're satisfied, don't assume she is. The pace of boredom is different for men and women. And if you don't account for that difference, you may one day realize you were left behind, not because you were a bad man, but because you stopped evolving. Number 5. Women cheat as much as men, but the timing is hidden. For decades, the narrative has been clear. Men are the cheaters, women are the victims. That's the story society tells. But the data and real-world experience show something different. Women cheat at nearly the same rate as men. The difference isn't frequency, it's visibility. When men cheat, they're sloppy, careless, even proud. When women cheat, they're quiet, strategic, and discreet. Here's the unsettling truth. Most women who step outside a relationship don't do it impulsively. They do it during specific windows, often when they feel disconnected from their partner, emotionally neglected, or when their biology sharpens their drive for novelty and desire. At those moments, the risk of crossing a line spikes dramatically. What makes this harder for men to accept is how hidden it can be. She might not change her schedule, she might not seem distant, and she might still say, "I love you." Meanwhile, she's exploring a connection that fills the gap she feels you no longer do. To you, life feels normal. To her, she's already living a double story. The emotional punch is this. When you tell yourself, "She's different, she'd never do that," you're blinding yourself to reality. Biology doesn't make exceptions for your relationship. Even the woman you believe would never stray is still human, still driven by the same instincts. And those instincts don't disappear just because you think your bond is strong. So what should men do with this information? Not panic, not control. The worst move is to try to cage her, to monitor her every step, to suffocate her freedom. That approach only guarantees resentment and distance. Instead, the answer is to become the kind of man she doesn't want to risk losing. That means cultivating strength, presence, and purpose. It means living a life so full of direction and ambition that your relationship is drawn into your orbit, not the other way around. When you're grounded in your own power, you don't need to worry about whether she's tempted elsewhere, because she knows leaving you would mean losing far more than she could ever gain. The point isn't to suspect every woman of betrayal. The point is to stop living under illusions. When you understand that women are just as capable of disloyalty as men, you stop putting blind faith in words and start building the kind of reality that makes loyalty the obvious choice. Because at the end of the day, control is an illusion. Influence is power. And the man who knows this never fears betrayal, because he knows he has already become the one worth staying with. You've now seen 5 truths most men never hear until it's too late. Women rarely leave without another branch ready. They don't measure loyalty by how much you've sacrificed. They measure it by whether you're still their best option. They often keep multiple plates spinning, no matter how convinced you are that you're the only one. They get bored with routine faster than men do, which is why so many divorces start with them. And yes, they cheat just as much as men, though they hide it far more effectively. These aren't accusations. They're realities. Women are not villains. They are human beings wired with instincts, strategies, and survival mechanisms that men often fail to understand. The problem isn't that women operate this way. The problem is that too many men remain blind to it. They cling to illusions of fairness, reciprocity, and permanence, only to be crushed when reality doesn't match the fantasy. Here's the truth you need to hold on to. A wise man doesn't become paranoid. He becomes aware. He doesn't cage his partner with suspicion. He strengthens himself with clarity. When you understand the rules, you're no longer a pawn in someone else's game. You step into the role of the man who can't be played, because you see the board for what it really is. And this is the emotional turning point. Being awake doesn't make you bitter. It makes you free. Free to choose better. Free to walk away when you see manipulation. Free to build a life where you are the prize, not the backup plan. Remember this. An awake man isn't the one who doubts women. He's the one who understands them. If you found value in this, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and share this with another man who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. Tell me which of these truths hit you hardest and what you've seen in your own relationships. Your story might be the wake-up call another man desperately needs. And remember, this isn't just about avoiding pain. It's about reclaiming your strength, your confidence, and your freedom. Because the more men wake up to these realities, the stronger, wiser, and harder to manipulate we all become.